All right, have you ever wondered how some big, hazy 5-year vision actually turns into a solid business plan? One that a board of directors actually signs off on? Well, today, we're going to pull back the curtain on a super high-stakes strategy session. We'll break it down step by step so you can see how to build a plan that's, well, truly bulletproof. Let's dive right in.
So this is the big one, right? The question that pretty much every entrepreneur, every business student, every manager has to tackle. How in the world do you build a 5-year plan that's big enough to get people excited, but also, realistic enough that they actually believe you can do it? It's a tough balance, and that's exactly the tightrope we're going to walk today.
Okay, so the story we're pulling from today comes from a company heading into what was basically a make-or-break board retreat. And their challenge? They had to take this really big, kind of lofty 5-year vision and turn it into a document. Not just any document, but one so rock solid it would lock in the funding and support they needed to literally shape the company's future. I mean, talk about pressure. The stakes really couldn't be any higher.
All right, so before you even think about writing a single word of your plan, you've got to define the mission. Seriously, you need to ask, what does success actually look like in 5 years? Nailing down the scope of the challenge, that is absolutely the first most critical step.
A truly great plan has to have laser focus. You can't do everything. So in our example, the team really zeroed in on 4 key areas. They were focused on launching new digital initiatives, creating educational programs, grabbing more market share, and of course, making sure all of this led to sustainable growth. The big takeaway here, you have to define your core priorities right from the get-go. Okay, so we've got our focus areas locked in. Now we can shift from the why we're doing this to the what we're actually going to do. This next part is all about crafting the strategic blueprint. The nitty-gritty, detailed plan that's going to bring that big vision to life.
So any powerful strategy really comes down to 4 main pillars. Think of it like a checklist. First, what are you actually selling and how are you going to get it to people? Second, what are your timelines? What are the key milestones along the way? Third, who are you selling to? Who is your target market? And finally, number 4, how are you going to reach them? What's your marketing plan? Get these 4 things down and you've got the narrative core of your entire plan.
Listen, this piece of advice from the source material is pure gold. Your audience, whether it's a board or a group of investors, they do not have a lot of time. So your goal has to be maximum clarity in minimum time. And how do you do that? Bullet points and simple, concise language. Seriously, they're your absolute best friends, your most powerful tools for getting complex ideas across quickly.
Okay, you're going to hear this term a lot in business planning, basis and assumptions. And look, don't let it intimidate you. It sounds way more complicated than it is. All it really means is showing your work. It's the why behind your numbers. Are your forecasts based on a new product launch? Or maybe you're betting on a new market trend or scaling up a marketing campaign. This is where you build the bridge connecting your strategy story to your financial one.
All right, time to talk money. Because let's be real, a strategy without numbers is just a nice dream, right? So in this next part, we're going to translate that blueprint we just talked about into an actual financial plan. We'll show how this whole vision gets funded and, just as importantly, what kind of return everyone can expect.
Now, this is such a critical point. The temptation is huge to create one of those hockey stick graphs, the one that just shoots for the moon. But the leaders in this real-world example, they really hammered home the need for realism. A plan that shows you can be profitable based on grounded, achievable goals is just so much more powerful than one that promises the world but could lead to massive losses.
So here's a really practical way to lay out your projections. See that assumption column? That's your basis and assumptions in action, justifying every single number. And notice that big jump from year 1 to year 2? The team in our source material totally saw this coming. They actually called for larger leaps in the second year as momentum builds. And that's a super realistic growth pattern, right? You have a foundation year, and then you hit the gas and start scaling fast.
Okay, so you've written the plan. You've built the financial model. You're done, right? Kick your feet up. Not even close. Now comes what might be the most important part of all, the stress test. I'm talking about the review gauntlet. Your plan has to survive a really tough review process before it ever gets presented to the people who matter.
And believe me, this is not some slow, casual process. The timeline from our source meetings shows this insane, rapid-fire sequence of deadlines and reviews, all crammed into a single week. It's intense, and that pressure is there for a reason. It's designed to find and expose every single weakness in the plan before the final high-stakes presentation.
This whole process really shows how modern business actually works. Yeah, the final thing you hand in is a polished Word document. But the real work, the crucial stuff, the refinements, That's all happening in real time, in these super fast feedback loops on WhatsApp and Zoom. And we're not just talking about fixing typos here. This is about challenging assumptions and pressure testing the core logic of the plan. It's this powerful mix of formal documents and really dynamic, fast-paced collaboration.
So after walking through that entire process, from the big vision to the nitty-gritty financials, all the way to that intense review, what are the big takeaways? Well, we can pretty much boil all of this down into 3 simple core principles for building a plan that's actually bulletproof.
Principle number 1 is the absolute foundation, the bedrock of a strong plan. Be realistic. Your ambition is great, but it has to be grounded in reality. This means every single projection needs to be backed up by a logical assumption. It could be market data, your own past performance, or a specific new thing you're launching. A realistic plan is a credible plan, and credibility is what gets you that yes.
Next up, principle number 2, be strategic. A plan isn't just a wish list of all the cool things you want to do. It's a series of very deliberate choices. The team and our source material really focused on specific opportunities, like captive markets, and they were constantly analyzing their competitors. See, strategy is all about deciding where you're going to play and having a really good reason why you believe you can win there.
And finally, principle number 3, be ready to defend. Just remember this, your plan is only as strong as your ability to stand behind it and defend it. That whole review gauntlet we talked about, it's designed specifically to test that strength. So you need to be able to justify every number, every assumption, and every single strategic choice you've made. And do it with confidence. And that brings us to our final thought for you. As you think about your own long-term goals, whether it's for a business, a project you're working on, or even your own career, I want you to ask yourself this one question. Identifying that single biggest assumption you're making and knowing deep down how you're going to defend it, well, that is the key to turning any vision into a reality. Thanks for joining me.